Hey everybody, if you're new here, I'm Frozen with Outdoor Adventures, and last year I thru hiked the Pacific Crest Trail from April 12th to August 14th. During that time, I kept a detailed log of all my expenditures while out on the trail in order to create this video for everyone because I feel that there just isn't enough information. So what I'm gonna do today is go over all the expenses in detail with categories, kind of dividing up my trip and where the money went. And then we'll look at the total spent. Now, before we kick this video off, I do want to say, just because these are my numbers, they're not necessarily going to translate into yours or anyone else's budget for the trail. It depends on a variety of factors: how fast you are, how hungry you are, and more importantly, how frugal you are. I knew I had enough money saved up to live very comfortably on the trail, thanks to this YouTube channel, of course, and that's exactly what I did. And I will make notes on specific things on the trail where I think you can save money. If you take a look at the data on the Halfway Anywhere survey, it's a great survey. It's sent out every single year for many years now on the PCT for thru hikers that completed the trail. You can see that the average thru hike in its entirety costs about $10,149. Let's take a look at my spreadsheet, which you can see we got some bar graphs. We have a pie chart down here, which we'll get into. I have every single expense dated, the amount of each expense, and the category of each expense. So if we scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see that I spent a little bit less than your average thru hiker at $9,322.66. But let's take a look at the whole story here. Let's break this down into categories. Now, some of these categories I'm not going to touch heavily on, like trip reservation, video editing, laundry we'll talk about briefly here, but this gives you a pretty good idea of where the expense breakdown is here, right? So let's take a look at the first three categories, which is going to be shipping, food, and groceries. Now, food is labeled at anything that I bought for consumption while in town or out on the trail that wasn't really trail food. It was extra, it was groceries, it wasn't in a resupply, so to speak. It was just fun food like hamburgers or steaks or fish or Cokes or whatever. That's all included in the food category. The groceries are what I used actually on the trail. And you can save a lot of food money, as you can see, that's a big bar here, by just buying everything at your local supermarket when you're in town. Now, for me, it's important to note that I live on the East Coast, specifically in the state of Pennsylvania. And California resupply is actually very expensive. I learned this early on. In fact, I crunched the numbers for the first few weeks, and I could have spent about $20 to $30 on average, even after shipping flat rate with the post office to the town that I was in. $20 to $30 per resupply could have been saved. And so after, I think, pretty much San Jacinto which is early on, the first 300 or so miles, I realized that, hey, I could just have my wife shop at Walmart, buy my groceries, ship the box, and still save $20 to $30 for when I was resupplying in town. So that's what I did. So food expenses, just eating food at restaurants and Cokes and fun stuff like that. Alcohol is also included in here, I believe. $2,229.41. Yeah, quite a bit. Not proud of it, but this was my vacation, and I learned from my last thru hike that just live it. I had the money, I had the income from this channel, which everybody watching just made my thru hike so comfortable that I was okay with that. I'm only probably gonna hike this trail one time, and I learned from the AT that, don't let a chance like this. You just eat what you want, put on that weight. I only lost 7 pounds the entire time I was out there, and it worked. This is what worked for me, right? Now, I could have ate that in groceries, but man, I got sick and tired of the same stuff every day, and just having that hamburger or that cherry Coke in town just made me that much happier. And that's the whole thing out there. It's the mental game. Keep yourself happy. So that's a good place to save money. If you just want to shop at your grocery store, you can save a ton of money there. Don't drink alcohol, stuff like that. All right, for actual groceries, we're at $1,711.04. But To get that number that low, we also had to spend $935.98 on post office boxes, shipping to the trail at the towns that I was in. So that's important to note. Let's go over to gear. Now, gear is by definition for me on this sheet at least a large variety of things. Not only is it, shoes or clothing or anything related to gear that I'm using actually on the trail, but also toothpaste, toothbrush, those kind of things like hygiene, anything like that was included in the gear list, and that really wasn't bad. I spent a lot on shoes. I have five, maybe four pairs of shoes that still are trail worthy, right? I was very cautious of my feet this time because I had foot problems on my last through hike. I didn't want to take any unreasonable chances with, hey, we're going into this 7-day stretch. I may or may not need new shoes. I just got them and I shipped the other ones home, which also appears in that post office USPS category. So keep that in mind. I bought a lot of shoes. I think I went through 7 pairs of shoes. My shoes were $149, and then I got a $50 pair of insoles to go in each one of those shoes. I replaced my insoles every single time that I got a new pair of shoes. So that's where that occurred. And I also spent, I believe, about $300 on a piece of gear called an Ursack, which took over basically my food storage. There was a lot of mice, there was a lot of rodents. In certain areas, it was required that you have a bear-proof container, which after a certain point, I think after the Desolation Wilderness, you can use Ursacks, at least as of last year, but it had to be the Almighty, which is bear and critter proof, okay? Don't waste your money and just buy the bear or the critter one. They're not lifetime warranted. So if a bear gets to the critter food bag, you're done. If the critter gets to the bear food bag, you're done. You just wasted your money. The Almighty one, which does both, had a lifetime warranty, and that's the one I went with. I wanted that bear-proof container because there's other trips that I can use it on. So it looks perfectly brand new right now. I plan to use it on, like the Grand Canyon that I went on with my father last year or 2 years ago at this point. Really wish I had it because we were pestered by rodents all night. So that was a $300 expense on top of all the shoe expenses. Lodging. This number needs to be adjusted, right? So $1,998.37. After Big Bear Lake, and then again after Hikertown, about 500 miles in, I think it was, I split all of my lodging. Now, I just threw all the lodging on here to show you what a solo hiker would pay for lodging on the trail if you're not splitting it with anyone and you're living luxuriously. Okay, I was filming this through hike, and in order to do so, I needed a quiet place to edit and upload, fast Wi-Fi, and you couldn't always find that at Trail Angels homes or low-cost areas. So I made sure that the Wi-Fi was the most important thing for me whenever I got into a hotel or motel or wherever we stayed. Plus, I was hiking with a hiking buddy of mine named Bigfoot. We split everything evenly, 50-50. So if I had to guess, we're probably looking at about $1,200 for lodging. So keep that in mind. All right, UPS. There was a couple stops here where I had to get stuff overnighted, whether it be a patch kit that I couldn't find, a pair of shoes that I had that can only be overnighted by UPS. It was an unnecessary, needless, and unexpected expense of $189.50. I thought I'd throw that on there just in case. That's an emergency expense, right? My shoes were absolutely falling apart at one point, and I overnighted them to Kennedy Meadows. It was like $150 just for that line item. It was crazy. As far as laundry, I believe what we spent, because we had to pay in quarters every single time we went in, I think I had 35 town stops, and they averaged about $5 to $6 for laundry. Again, that was split between me and Bigfoot. Sometimes he would put the quarters in, sometimes I would put the quarters in, but around $160 for laundry. Video editing, I used an app called KindMaster out there. It was a monthly subscription, so that's where that line item is coming from. And just to finish this chart off for completion, my trip reservation was simply the shuttle that I used from basically the San Diego airport all the way to Campo. It was the Southern Terminus shuttle. It was great, highly recommend it, but there's also a bus that runs. So now that you've kind of seen the bar charts for each of the categories, this is where the money was divided up. You can see between USPS, grocery, and food, I wish this was on the other side, it basically takes up about 50% of my through hike, where lodging is coming in again about 21.4%. But I believe we can probably shrink that to about 12 to 13% because it's not split up. Again, I'm giving you these numbers based on you hiking solo. So the more you split, the more you save. So that is pretty much where all the money went. Again, the total for this through hike was $9,322.66. So thanks for watching, everybody. Again, if you have questions, leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one where I go over my resupply strategy for the PCT. It is a very requested video, which I will try to get out to you in the next couple weeks here. So thanks, everybody. See you on the trail.